Hello, everyone. I'm Ruzanna, pediatric oncologist from Armenia, and together with my co-chair, Gabby, we warmly welcome you to the next episode of Charlas de Café, or Coffee Talks, SIOP Global Health Network Adolescent Young Adult Working Group Initiative. And since the March is Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, also known as a Blue March, I'm really happy to welcome Katell, a cancer survivor, researcher, and patient advocate. And we are really eager to hear your insights, your vision, and also about the initiatives that you are involved.
Thank you so much for the invitation. So yes, I'm a researcher. I've got a scientific background and I became a patient advocate a few years ago now. I was diagnosed with stage 3 colorectal cancer in 2021, so 4 years ago. And during my journey, I discovered that patient advocate was something that was really something I could do and I wanted to do. I was diagnosed at 40, so I'm not officially, I was not diagnosed as a young patient because I was also misdiagnosed for several years. But I think for me, it's really important to raise awareness about colorectal cancer, especially amongst young people, because the numbers are rising. It's a global epidemic and we need to do something about it. So one thing I did is I shared my story with Digestive Cancers Europe. So there's this English book called You're Young, but it might be cancer. And it's 16 stories of young colorectal cancer patients. And as I shared my story in English, I realized that it's important also to have it in French, as I'm French. I live in the Netherlands, but of course I speak French. So I did a translation, and it's now available via the link or on the Digestive Cancers Europe website. And one of my missions is really to translate science into accessible knowledge, because most of the knowledge is in English, but it's very technical, and I found it extremely difficult to understand first when I was diagnosed. And I realized that there's a need to translate it into accessible language, but also from English to French, because so many French people don't speak English and don't have the knowledge needed to understand and to have access to the information needed. And I'm also part of the ECAM, which is the European Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. We did it with DICE again, and so you can find the recording online also on the DICE website. And the conference was really about You Are Never Too Young and the untold stories of early onset colorectal cancer. And I'm part of the 5 patients that you see on the pictures, and we were all diagnosed very early. And that also, I've got a background in statistics, and my goal is also to show that behind the statistics there are patients, and we've got all our own stories, and it's important for us to share it and to give a voice to young patients, and that we really show that we are all unique, and as young patients we've got and colorectal cancer is on average, patients are diagnosed above 60, 65. And as young patients, we've got some specific needs that are not addressed. And also one thing that I do for a Blue March is I'm going to skate on the 15th of March, so it's coming very soon. And it's to raise funds for the Dutch MDL organization, which is the gastric and digestive disease organization, and it's really to support colorectal cancer in the Netherlands. So I registered for the 10 kilometers. I'm not really a nice skating expert. I did it once on the rings this year, but I really love it, and I think it's really important to raise awareness and raise funds, because we need more money to do more research. And I'm also part of a campaign online. It was designed by Pierre Fabre, and it's really also to raise awareness. And they've got a beautiful website called The Wonderful Colon, where you can really dive into all this info and learn more about your digestion, your colon, how colorectal cancer develops, what to do at what age, and what you can do also in terms of prevention. So it's not with colorectal cancer, it's very specific because it's one of the only cancers with cervical cancer that can be prevented, meaning that with the screening, we can really find some precancerous cells. So it can be really, it can be seen before it turns into cancer. And that's why screening is so important, because if it's caught early or even at a precancerous stage, then the outcome is much more positive. It means that the survival rate at 5 years is 90%, which is very high. And when you go to stage 4, it's around 8% of survival rate. And it goes very... Colorectal cancer is really something that develops very slowly. So it's really important to do the screening on a regular basis to make sure that it doesn't develop too far. And depending on your country, of course, the age screening is different. So in the Netherlands, it's still at 55. In France, it's 50. The majority of the countries in Europe are now at 50. Some countries in the world are now at 45. So if you are at the age of screening, please go get screened because it saves lives. And I would say if you are a young patient, you need to know the signs and symptoms. And if you have any doubts, please consult and fight for your own health. Because in my case, I didn't know anything about colorectal cancer. I had symptoms for years before my diagnosis. And I was pushed back by my practitioner several times, as we thought that it was food allergies, I had endometriosis, so the symptoms were quite similar. And at the end, I was diagnosed with stage 3. And I had 7 surgeries, plus chemo and radiotherapy. So it's almost 3 years of treatment, which could have been avoided if I would have been diagnosed earlier. So that's really my message for March. Get screened and know the symptoms. And so as a patient advocate, I'm part of several research projects. I'm part of team eDynamic working on extra chromosomal DNA. So it's quite a hot topic at the moment in cancer research. It's not so well known, but I think it's going to be very soon. There's an international conference coming in June in London. If I can have 2 minutes to explain it. It's basically part of your DNA that detach and form a loop. And because it doesn't have the structure of a normal chromosome, it can really spread faster, and it doesn't follow any rules. And it means that also it can really replicate much faster. And I think a few years ago, no one thought about it, and we didn't think that it would be of any interest for cancer. But now the latest research shows that it's present in more than 17% of the cancer. And the more aggressive and the more advanced it is, the more present extra chromosomal is in the cells, in the tumors. So it's really something that makes the cell more resistant to treatment. So I think there are now several teams working on it, and if they can really understand better how it works and how we can block and kill the cells with ecDNA, we might be able to cure some of the most aggressive cancers. And I'm a patient advocate on the team, and our is to translate the knowledge and make it as accessible as possible and communicate about it. that was in Boston at the Cancer Grand Challenges Summit, and that was the conference I was talking about. So if you're interested in science, if you want to learn more about it, there's a conference at the Royal Society in London, June, and I think it's really gonna be a key moment for ecDNA and research. And if you want to know more about it, I'm on LinkedIn and I'm quite active, and I post very very frequently, mostly about the latest research about colorectal awareness and also some actions.
Thank you so much for sharing all this. And I have so many questions to you at this point. And to our listeners, I would like to say that all the links will be provided. So if you were not able to find anything, we will provide all the useful website and everything here in the article. So please find that below. So I do understand the whole insights and your vision about this really important topic, and especially if something can be prevented or diagnosed earlier. This is so important. The screening programs, unfortunately, in pediatric oncology, there are no screening programs, but in terms of colorectal cancer, and when we're talking about adolescents and young adults, it's very useful and very important to do all the screening programs and diagnose the disease as early as possible, because as you said, the earlier diagnosis is, the better survival rate is, and as you said, let's call it like easier the treatment would be for this patient, which is the most important thing, because all this way is very difficult to overcome all this. So about my question, I know that you are also involved in Inspire to Live. So I would like to know about this initiative and it's the main mission of it.
So Inspire to Live is a Dutch patient organization, and it's very unique because first it's global. So we've got people from all around the world. It's also, we've got patients, we've got caregivers, we've got researchers, we've got clinicians together. And I think that's a very unique perspective. And the fact that we all collaborate together, we discuss, we've got monthly meeting to discuss the different topics. And this collaboration helps us to have also a global understanding of the situation. So it's not only dedicated to one country or one type of cancer, but the fact that we've got very diverse profiles helps us to have a better understanding and to work better together. And that's very unique.
Yeah, I see. And I would like also to ask about patient advocacy. Do you think that there is a improvement in the whole world? First question. And the second, what do you think can be better on this?
So I'm quite new to it. I started 3 years ago, and I discovered by chance. I didn't know anything about patient advocacy, so that's the first thing. I think patient advocacy needs to be more known. And if I think about the US and the UK, it's far more developed, and patient advocates are much more trained and professional. They're also paid and recognized. And I think it's coming very slowly to Europe. So I see it more and more. And it's evolving very quickly, but I think there's still quite a lot to do. And especially, there are a few trainings. I did the homeopathy training, for example, that I would highly recommend if you want to be a patient advocate and be involved with research or pharma companies. But there are not so much done. And I think if we want, as patient advocates, to be involved with pharmaceutical companies, academic researchers, we need to have also the knowledge and the training to be able to be at the same table and share the same language. Because that's really what I discovered. It's like two different worlds, and it's really difficult to bridge a gap between the pharma companies and patients, and even the general public. So I think there's a lot to do. It's moving very quickly, I think. I see it. There's still a lot.
But it always can be better and better, let's say.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I do totally agree with that, that collaboration is the key to success. And in all, I would say in units and all parts of oncology, and not only oncology, in medicine, and I guess in all fields, to be honest. So we have talked, of course, about the blue march and importance of raising this awareness. In your opinion, how patient advocates can boost this awareness, how you can impact on this?
The way I see it is, as patient, we need to share our story. I think that's one way of doing it, sharing as much as we can, and to make people realize that it's everybody can have colorectal cancer. So it's not an old people disease anymore. We, I think many people don't have any idea of the statistics and what is currently happening. So I think we need to make people, the general public, aware and to break the taboo that it's cancer is already taboo. But when we talk about colorectal cancer, it's even worse. People don't dare to share their experience. And I hear too often, oh, yes, I had signs and symptoms, but I didn't want to see my GP. I didn't want to talk about it because it's so private. Yes, can be, but everybody is the same, and we need to be able to talk about it. And I think if I see what about Pink October, how far gone. Oh wait, I got a computer restart, which is not the right moment. If I see what is done for breast cancer to raise awareness, and so many women are now talking openly about it. And when I started doing my research, when I was diagnosed, I couldn't find anyone online talking about colorectal cancer. And I was so surprised, and it took me almost 2 years before being open about my diagnosis online and sharing it. And the more I share it, the more I see other people doing it, and the more people contact me to talk about it and to ask questions about it. So
So you
it's
started
growing.
this. Yeah, you have started this, and this one that is very important, and especially I saw the book that you wrote at this very, very really essential. Of course, the translation it to the languages that more people would understand, because we understand that there might be language barriers for this patient, especially when we're talking about the patient. Not all people would understand English, and this is really very important for those who are having this at this moment in their life. And it's very important also because, as you mentioned, many people do not want to talk about this, but whenever they read or they find someone who already overcame all these problems, and they will realize that it's important to share their stories, and this is motivating for the people who just started their treatment. And nothing can be more motivating for the patients, I guess, than the stories that you are sharing as the patient who already finished everything, and as the cancer patient advocates. This is very important thing, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for me that was also I had to make some very difficult choices during my treatment, and one of them was should I have a stoma or not? And when I first heard about it, I was like, no way, I don't want one. And I didn't have any example um, of young woman living with a stoma. And it took me several months to find some people online, indeed, to have an example to see that, yes, we can live with a stoma, and it gives such a good quality of life if everything is done the right way. And at the end, I waited like 1 year, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready to have a stoma. My quality of life was extremely bad, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready for it. And now yeah, I've had it for a bit more than a year, and I've started traveling again. I went to California last year. I traveled, I went kite surfing, I'm ice skating. I can really do everything that I want with the stoma. And if I would have known that at the beginning of my treatment, that would have changed a lot because I would have accepted it much faster and I might have saved a few surgeries.
Exactly. This is really motivating. I mean, your example is really motivating for many people, I guess. And at the end of this talk, I would like to ask you, what would be your, like, let's say, final message to the public during this Blue March? What would be this, like, one or two things that you would like to tell us, the final message for this Blue March?
So as we already discussed, is if there is a screening program in your country and if you're old enough to do it, please go and get screened. That's really important. It's not only for colorectal cancer, but it's also for cervical cancer, breast cancer. If there is a screening program, please just do it because it saves life. And if you are younger and if you have symptoms, please just get checked because it's really important. And as we already said, prevention is also essential. So it comes also with what you eat, what you do and not do. And I think we don't hear enough about alcohol and tobacco consumption, and that's really one of my fights too. Of course, we know that it's especially tobacco is the first risk factor, and there is so much to be done. That would be also my message, especially for the young generation. Don't start.
Don't start in order not to stop at the point of your life. This was really very motivating and really very helpful for everyone. Thank you so much once again for joining us and for sharing your story. And this was our episode dedicated to the Blue March. And thank you everyone for joining us.
Thank you.